Happy Godzilla Day and welcome to this installment of the Straight Edge Game Room. Today we're going to be looking at Super Godzilla for the Super Nintendo. Let's get into it. This is a game I love and absolutely hate at the same time. I love the Heisei Godzilla aesthetic. I love the cinematic display during the fights. I love Godzilla's art style, and I love that there are various monsters from the Heisei era. The in-game battle cinematic animations are cheesy and they look kinda silly, but I could forgive all that. There's also a lot of Showa era charm to this game, which I like very much. It's an actual love letter to both the Showa and the Heisei era, and it gives it a so cheesy it's good kind of energy. But the actual core gameplay really lets you down. Yes, underneath all that Godzilla lace fan service is a very poorly thought out strategy game. It's just not fun. It's not even mediocre, it's just bad. You see this screen? This is not a cutscene that you're witnessing. Sure, that Godzilla cinematic scene on the top part of the screen looks great, but the bottom part is the actual game. You see that little dot moving around? That's you. That's what you're controlling in this game. That's right. The gameplay is relegated to the map. The backstory is, in short, the humans found a way to control Godzilla, so the main focus is right there on the bottom part of the screen. That's Godzilla, that little dot, and you need to move him to certain areas and make your way to battling enemies. In other words, the top part of the screen is just for show. The actual game is that little map. And if it sounds like it makes the gameplay uninteresting, well, that's because it does. Wherever you point Godzilla, that's where he keeps moving. Until you move him left, right, up, down, he's gonna keep going in whatever direction you left him last. So if you want him to change directions, you gotta push the directional pad in the direction you want him to switch to. There are various hazards you gotta watch out for, like tanks and bombs, and some of them don't even appear on the map and Godzilla will take hits. So keep an eye on that numeric energy meter on the left. Oh yeah, you're also being timed, so you're only allotted a certain amount of time to beat a level. There are various power-ups you can collect, but you can only carry so many before you go into battle. So take as many as you can carry, and be sure to power up your energy. By that I mean if you take any damage, you might want to go to these little blue squares right here. It's just a nuclear reactor that helps Godzilla power up and restore some of his health. As for the power-ups, some of them help replenish Godzilla's enemy during battle, and some of them are his fighting spirit. But before we talk about the battles, let me tell you about one thing that really irks me in this game. If you run Godzilla through a building, he takes damage. Why? I don't know. Destroying buildings is what Godzilla's good at. Why they made the choice for Godzilla to take damage whenever he does that? I don't get it. I think it's stupid. Now let's get into the monster battle, or the boss fight, whatever you want to call it. This part of the game raises the lousiness to a whole new level. It looks like it's going to be a fun fighting game, but no, it's anything but that. How do you fight the boss of the stage? Take a wild guess what you're supposed to do. Now, different bosses have different ways to accomplish this, but the goal on all of them is basically the same. What you want to do is get close enough to the enemy and land a punch. Once you do that, you gotta backtrack to open up your attack window illustrated down below. Once you see an attack that you need, select it, and Godzilla attacks that enemy in the cinematic cutscene. Now, these poorly animated, cheesy looking cutscenes are great. I actually like them very much, but the gameplay that got me to this point is what I don't like. Why would you program the boss battle in such a convoluted, cockamamie, tedious way? This part of the game, they should have made it more something like a fighting game. You couldn't have made a Godzilla game any worse if you licensed it out to LJN. And if you think I'm just whining and griping about the boss fight with one monster, well, it's even worse with others. With some monsters like Batra, basic attacks do not work. And that's another thing I gotta bring up. A lot of times, the monsters can attack you and transition into a cinematic cutscene without you being able to land a punch. A lot of times it feels like the computer has an unfair advantage because you move so slow, but the monsters can jump up right in your face and bump you around. Hopefully you got that item that increases your fighting spirit. In this part of the game, to select that certain item that you collected on the map screen, you push the R button until you see the one that you need, and then you select it with L. All bad gameplay aside, I really like seeing these monsters, and they do make this game a little bit more enjoyable if you're a Godzilla fan. They use mostly Heisei era monsters, but for whatever reason, they used the Showa era Mecha-Godzilla. And they made him fat for whatever reason. It's like they gave him the body of a potbelly stove. But I don't mind it. The fact alone that it's a Godzilla game and I'm a huge mark for Godzilla, that's what keeps me in. But the actual gameplay itself, well, there's not a whole lot I can praise about it. And as the game is titled Super Godzilla, that's what you eventually evolve into if you collect these S items. Now what you can do is you can fight Mecha-King Ghidorah as base form Godzilla, or you can collect all of the S items and fight him as Super Godzilla and completely trash him. But if you want to save those S items for after you defeat Mecha-King Ghidorah, you can do that as well and turn into Super Godzilla later and face Bagan. Bagan is the final boss of the whole game. He is an official Toho monster, but he was never featured in any Godzilla movie. I believe this monster was planned for a Mothra movie that never materialized. But in any case, you have your final battle with Bagan, and I fought him as base Godzilla because I depleted my energy or something. I don't know what happened. But thankfully the Super X comes to your aid in this game and re-energizes you, turning you back into Super Godzilla, which balances things out in this battle, making it easier for you to defeat Bagan. And Super Godzilla, that version of Godzilla never materialized in any film either, but it's obvious that later that design became Space Godzilla. But even though he never premiered on the big screen, he's right here in Super Godzilla for your Super Nintendo. And after you defeated the final boss and the aliens, Godzilla reverts back to his normal self and goes back to the sea. Super Godzilla for your Super Nintendo. It has a lot of Godzilla fan service and does everything right from the aesthetic to the presentation, but the gameplay is terrible. If you're not a die-hard Godzilla fan and don't really collect Godzilla stuff as your hobby, you might want to step over this game. Well, that about does it for this episode of the Straight Edge Game Room, and happy Godzilla Day for those of you tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share on social media, reference my video catalog for past episodes of the Straight Edge Game Room, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.